What is your superpower?
I'd probably say my creativity.
Knowing nerdy trivia.
My superpower is being a good listener.
Devising a million questions.
Helping people.
Making people laugh.
My superpower is that I'm determined and never give up.
Welcome to Meristem's Voice of Community podcast with Harry and Aaron. How are you doing today, Aaron?
Pretty good. A little tired. It's been a long day at work. How about you?
Don't make me yawn now.
Yeah.
We are going to, I'm great. I'm very excited because, well, you'll find out in a minute about today's guest that's sitting in the center of your phone, if you're watching on YouTube. But the guest that is sitting in the center, I cannot wait to talk shop. So I think we should just get right into it.
Right on.
So I'm going to be grateful to introduce our guest today, the director of the California Conservation Corps. Well, you can give your whole title, but basically I've been told to call you JP, so we're going to call you JP for today, the director of the California Conservation Corps. Right before I pass the baton to you to introduce yourself, history lesson now. I just want to tell you briefly, how the California Conservation Corps. It's a big deal. How in the world did I even ever meet the Conservation Corps? Actually, it was a meeting on Zoom with the state, basically with different departments in the state. They were holding some kind of presentation. I believe this is back in 2021 in the fall sometime, and me and my partner Eric over here at TAP, we presented. We've got a whole podcast on what exactly TAP is, so go back and watch our podcast in order. But basically, we presented. They said, it just sounds amazing. How soon can I get to Meristem? And I think the next day or something, they were over here on a tour with there were a lot of people. Then we got connected with their Sacramento Energy District, where they teach. Well, we can talk a little about the Energy District too on today's podcast if we wanted to, but where they teach people how to basically do electrician type work and other stuff that they do there. And they have some offices, so they actually can hire people as administration staff or what have you. So we did the training there with them, and after the races, we continued with our partnership with going to other centers and offering trainings. I think we've been to 3 or 4 centers. And did some trainings. We even did an internship, which we could get into. But yeah, JP, you want to tell me something about yourself?
All right. Hey, folks. My name is JP Patton, and as mentioned, I'm the new director of the California Conservation Corps. And the California Conservation Corps, if you haven't heard of us, it's a really cool organization. So we're a state organization, and we're under the umbrella of California Natural Resources Agency. So that means there's some other agencies that you might have heard, like CAL FIRE, the folks who are out there fighting fires, the State Department of Parks and Recreation, the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Well, we're part of that family, and we've been around for a while. We're 47 years young right now, and what we do is we enroll young folks, young Californians all over the state who are between the ages of 18 to 25, or up to 29 if you are a veteran. And our mission is very cool and noble. It is to go out into California and improve our natural resources and our communities through developing young people through hard work and education. We've got a pretty rich history. The idea of a corps is nothing new. We were created by then Governor Jerry Brown back in the 70s, but really, our roots come from the Federal Civilian Conservation Corps during the Depression era, and the idea was, how do we get young people back to work? And so they came up with this idea to activate young people, which was really, really cool, and that's sort of our DNA. So we get out there into the natural world and do sorts of all cool projects. So you talked about the energy program, which is one of our programs, and we have a fire program where people learn to become and get trained in firefighting. We have a culinary program. We have a trail building program. We have programs where folks go out into all the creeks and the watershed and do surveys of fish and salmon. We get people who restore habitat for biodiversity, anything in the outdoors and natural spaces is what we're doing. The goal is to take these young folks who want to serve their state essentially for a year, and when they're done with that, connect them with a job or an education. I mean, we do a couple of things for that. So when you enroll in the program, you get a stipend. So there's like financial support while you're there. The California Conservation Corps is all over the state. We have some of our campuses are residential campuses, much like the Meristem campus, where you can live and work and recreate. And there's also some really cool education opportunities as well. So if you're a young person who hasn't finished a high school diploma, you can go to one of our charter schools and get your diploma. If you finish your high school diploma, but you want to make the transition to community college, there's an opportunity to do some community college programs. We do a lot of really cool things. Whenever there's an emergency in California, the CCC, which is what our nickname is,
we're gonna get to that. Yeah. What is your motto? I love your motto.
You love the motto?
Ready, everyone?
Yeah, the motto, it's an old school motto, which is hard work, low pay, miserable conditions, and more. So it's a little controversial these days. People either love it or you hate it, but it certainly captures people's attention.
Love it. We're speaking to people popping up to deal with the challenges last year. We were super grateful. We had our big day of service, and I think 20 Corps members showed up and knocked out one of our projects in lightning speed, which was awesome. So we're super grateful. JP, how did you get into the Conservation Corps and end up at the director level of the CCC?
Yeah, well, my background is I've always worked in outdoor recreation. I've worked in outdoor education for a long time, but my favorite part of the job was always working with young folks who are sort of like 18 to 25 who are just trying to figure out their role in life, like what they're trying to do with their life. That to me was the most exciting piece of it. And so I just wanted to be a part of that. And I thought that, when you're out there in nature, it's probably one of the greatest teachers out there. And so I just have a passion for the outdoors, passion working for young people. And the CCC is a place that allowed me to do that. So I used to, before I became the director, I used to support all of our centers in Northern California, which is near and dear to my heart. That's where I come from. So we've got the redwoods, we've got the pine forest, we've got the salmon, it's really spoiling up here.
So what job was that, deputy? No,
that was a deputy position. That's
okay.
And that's where we met.
And were you a Corps member yourself?
I was not a Corps member myself. But the CCC saved my butt one day, because this was back in 2017. I used to run a campground in the Tahoe area, and we just got dumped on with snow. It was a huge snow year, and I really needed some help digging out my camp. And the CCC Center from Tahoe, which I know we've worked with together, was the one to save my day. So I've trained up young Corps members. There's a federal program called AmeriCorps. I've worked with them as a project sponsor. Training up young people. I was never a Corps member myself, though. It's probably too hard.
Is there how do I know, like where I grew up, I lived on a community with 72 acres, and we always had help. We always needed help maintaining the land, and so there were AmeriCorps people that popped in for summers to just help do stuff. Are people able to get connected with the CCC, or is it more like there's specific areas that you will serve? How does that process work? How do you get in with getting your campground dug out or something? Yeah.
The thing to do is, if you're interested in getting some help or support from the CCC, is to go to our website, ccc.ca.gov, and there's a map area where you can connect to a person to say, hey, I'm over in this county, I'd love to get some help. So a little bit of background of us: because we are a state entity, we can work with nonprofits, community-based organizations, other state, local, federal, or county entities. And so we don't work with private companies, but we do have an opportunity for young folks to do volunteer work as well. So the number one thing is to go to our website, get in touch, talk to one of our project managers, and we see what we can do for you.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So I've got some So I want to get into some specific, like day-to-day, the life of a Corps member, but in more of a broad sense, as someone that's looking to join the Corps. Like you have different centers that do different things.
That's right.
Like your plaster center is basically you get trained to be a firefighter. You get trained with CAL FIRE, right, to go out and fight a wildfire. Then you have your, I think it's called Bear Crew. It's the Sacramento Energy District.
That's
thing,
right. Yep.
Where you could be learning electricity and different things in Stockton and so forth. So does the individual that want to join the Corps, like, oh, I want to be a firefighter, and they go there, or they have to come with that ahead of time, or?
So the only thing you need to get into the California Conservation Corps is you have to be a California resident.
All right.
And you have to be someone who is interested in self-development, hard work, and service. And that's it. And then when you go through our process, our recruitment process, we're curious to know what you're interested in. If you're interested in the culinary program, our fire program, our trails program, our salmon habitat, our backcountry trails program, which is really cool. We throw folks in the backcountry for 5 months at a time, and they just do some really cool trail work. And then we work with you and try to match your interest to, a different location. So you're right. Every center does something special, and they have, they kind of respond to what is around them. But yeah, if you just let us know what your interests are, we try to match you up with a center and location that fits your needs.
I always thought that so we deal a lot, of course, with people that have autism. And I always thought that people that had autism needed structure in their life. Something that the Corps provides is structure. So I've got a question, if you could, like on a day-to-day basis, it's really structured. And I want to get to the part where it's not structured, because that's a big deal for me. But like when I say structured, I mean like it's not like military school or in the sense of the military where you're going to be like, oh, we're going to punch in the, but like they are, because when I went and took a tour of one of your facilities, like they are checking to make sure you make your bed every day, and they are making sure that it looks neat. That's some things we do at Meristem, but we don't do it on the same level. Can you talk a little about that structure and what you need to do because you can get kicked out of the Corps too, or you can get embarrassed, right?
Yeah, you can. So the structure is a very important part of our program, because we want to take every opportunity that we can to sort of create citizens of good character as well. And that means learning how to take care of the things that you receive, taking care of your bedding, taking care of your uniform, and instilling in folks to taking care of the space around them. And so in some ways it is there's a lot of structure, and I think people benefit from that structure. I think they really, we see a lot of folks who are coming to our program who haven't had any structure in their life. Like, hey, I was just hanging out on someone's couch, not really knowing what to do with myself. And so I think they really come alive when they're like, oh, okay, so I'm getting up at 6 o'clock. I'm going in, I'm going to make my lunch for the day. I'm going to get my uniform prepared. I'm going to make my bed. Then I'm going to have breakfast. I'm going to have roll call. And roll calls, we gather, have a meet. And then we're going to go out for our work for the day, go out and work for a couple of hours. And then we're going to come back. We're going to have dinner. Once dinner is done, I'm going to go to my education classes. I'm going to go to my high school class. I'm going to go to my community college class. And what that does for folks is once you're sort of in that system, it actually frees up, we find it frees up some capacity in your mind so I can just relax and just focus on the things that you need to focus on. And it just instills really good work habits too. So when we're preparing these folks for their first job after the CCC, they come fully loaded with all these great habits. They show up on time. They're respectful and courteous. They take care of things that have been given to them. And I think employers really like that. And we have a good reputation now that people want to hire folks who've been through the CCC program because they work really well. They've got some really good habits.
Well, we're going to get to employment in a moment, I think. But
Sure.
Is it 7 days a week? Or they get a day off?
They get days off. Yeah, they get days off. Some centers are 5 days a week, like an 8-hour day,
Yeah.
and then some are 4 days a week, 10 hours a day.
And so one thing that we've dealt with here at Meristem, okay, so we don't have roommates, we have housemates, each person gets their own room, but I'm just picturing what you said, like, they do have to make the bed, and they can get this demerit points or whatever, but it's individual, because your roommate might be a pig slum, and your roommate could affect the way that the rest of the room looks. How do you, I guess I should say, how do you deal with that roommate?
Yeah.
Either how do you deal with the roommate disagreement, or you're not going to get somebody in trouble because somebody else is a pigsty? No,
and there's a community agreement. So the standard that you're held to is the same standard that I'm held to. So there will be no pigsty, and that's nice because it's protected in that way. Because we share the space. I have to live there as well. So there's community agreements at all the centers about everyone is responsible for their spaces, and this is not just your space. This is our shared space, and so. That's part of the bargain when you sign up for the CCC. There's rules to participating in the program and staying in the program, which is really respecting other people's space and property and their experience as well.
So that'd be like a meeting where I sign documents that sign a lot of stuff. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And there's we have something called the Core Member Advisory Board, which operates like a student council. And people they have community meetings once a week, and so people also get to share, talk about what's happening in the community, air grievances, find solutions. Yeah, so there's a place to put all of that.
So the other thing is this, another thing that we deal with is this idea of change, and specifically in the workforce, this idea of changing of one's schedule, on-call nature. I mean, I run a bed and breakfast. It's on-call internship because sometimes people are going to check in. Not when we're only scheduled once a week interns, but like people could come in any time. Well, maybe first, before I ask the question that I'm really thinking about maybe explain how it works, because like there could be like last year we had flooding, every summer we have fires.
Yeah.
Luckily last year wasn't terrible, but like, can you explain, like, they're doing their day-to-day, they have a schedule, and then something happens, right?
Yeah. So a part of the CCC that's good to highlight is that whenever there is an emergency in the state of California, and we explain this to the core members when they enroll, is that you can be deployed to any emergency in the state. So when we have the floods that are happening in the late December of last year, a lot of our core members from all over the state were mobilized and were reinforcing levees all up and down the state. When there are these large campaign fires, and fortunately we didn't have any last year, when we have these large campaign fires, we can bring all of our 100 crews to various areas to help out. So even if you're not a firefighter doing direct attack on the fire, you could be a person who is supporting the camp. So we sort of establish these mini cities when we're doing these campaign fires. So core members are helping with the refrigerated trucks, helping with logistics, helping with food, and helping with wrapping up hose, tons of things to do.
And they're expected to do this, of course, enjoy it.
That's
it's not like they can say, oh, I don't want to go near a wildfire because I'm scared of the fire or whatever.
Yeah.
Or I don't want to breathe in the air. Of course, they'll have their mask. But like, how do you deal? But then there's there's not a lot of notice. Sometimes there's notice, but as much notice as you could possibly give them.
Yeah.
But a wildfire is a wildfire. It's very unpredictable. So how do you, because even if there's a wildfire that you didn't think you were going to be deployed to, but then because the state will call and say, hey, right? We need more resources. How do the core members deal with that? I'm having it's very structured, the core, my day. So I go to lunch at this time, I make my sandwich, I go out into the field, I do this, I come back for dinner at 6, I do this, and all of a sudden, I gotta go into the El Dorado forest for 3-4 weeks, unknown amount of time sometimes, right? How do you deal with that?
Well, the good thing about all of those emergency deployments is that they use what's called an incident command system. So even within that system, some of these emergencies, it is extremely dialed in and sort of regimented and structured. So there's a lot of structure there. But what we do ahead of that is we make sure that all of our core members get trained up. So all of our core members do a lot of training, both, what your personal protective equipment is going to be, how to use the instant man system. There's a whole series of, OSHA trainings, like safety and health and hazard trainings. Folks who are firefighter trained, we don't, everyone's going to be firefighter trained, whoever deals with fire. Yeah, if you're not dealing with fire, you're going to rely on your other training, the first aid training, the warfare training, all sorts of things. So you feel prepared when you go out to these situations. And then we're also supported by a lot of other people as well. CAL FIRE will be there, the Department of Water Resources will be there, local, federal, state emergency responders will be there. So it's sort of a community that comes together. So there's lots of support when we're out there doing the emergencies. Yeah, it is cool.
Do you guys have any issue keeping your numbers up? Sometimes I feel like we live in an age where going out on the trail and working your butt off is viewed less excitedly than where I grew up. That would have been awesome for me.
Yeah.
And maybe there's just a lot of errands out there too that you don't see very often. But is it hard to keep up the numbers to keep the program running in a way, or are you wait lists and?
We've got a wait list.
Yeah,
we've got a wait list. And I know young people have a lot of different options out there, but I still think because the strength of our program, really because what the program does is it sets you up for your next thing. So you can leave the program, save a lot of money, get a bunch of scholarships, get a lot of trainings, certifications, and get, within a year's time, get plucked into a really awesome job. So I think we haven't had much issues with recruitment. I think if anything, we need to build more centers to accommodate folks. So yeah, you're right. It's not everyone's cup of tea is to go out and do, working in the backwoods. And so, for that, we've created some different positions too. Where people are doing internships, working in offices, working on policy, working on equity work. So
Working in energy,
yeah.
And now the Energy Center isn't a room and board, right?
Yeah, we don't have any of our energy programs at a residential campus yet.
So they just go home at the end of the day.
They go home at the end of the day.
How do you recruit people? Do you go out to high schools? Do you go?
We go out to high schools. We go out to adult education areas. We partner with community-based organizations. We're really targeted on folks who are people living with disabilities, women in wildfire, foster youth, people who are impacted by the justice system. We have a really strong online social media presence, so that's been we don't have a podcast yet. That's really cool. But a lot of folks find us from online, word of mouth. We have up to 1,600 core members can be serving at any given time, and when they have a good experience, they tell their friends, like, "Oh yeah, come over here, come to Tahoe, and come stay at this campus here because this is really great." There's a lot of competition. You can go to fast food, get $20 an hour. You can work for Amazon. You can do all these things, but people are still knocking on our doors.
Yeah. And so, I'm assuming it's government funded, and is there ever challenges negotiating to get the budgets that you need to continue growing and pursuing the stuff? If it's a rough year budget wise, does that affect you guys, or are you pretty protected?
Well, a thing to know is that, again, we're a state agency, and so a portion of the work that we do is funded by the general fund, funded by the taxpayers, which is great, which is a big, big help for a program like ours. The other portion of our budget is fee for service. So we have people who go out and find work and projects to work on. So
cool.
And that was sort of in our DNA. It was the CCC was supposed to be entrepreneurial.
So people will pay.
People would bet, yeah.
So the one project that I saw was at I believe it was Lodi at the zoo. Was a big. So I'm picturing that the Lodi Zoo paid you guys to do that.
Possibly, yeah.
Something like that as a random example.
That's cool. I didn't realize that. Sweet. Yeah, I love the entrepreneurial aspect of that.
It is.
And there was I believe, if I remember correctly, some of these projects are the core members come up with the idea?
Sometimes they do. Yeah, sometimes they do. Because if they're connected with something, they might, hey, I have a good idea, or, I was working here and they told me about this. Is this something that we can do? So we've got our project work, and then we also have volunteer work as well. So the core members are always pulling in like really cool ideas, like, oh, we should partner with ASPCA over here, or we should go do, it's Memorial Day weekend we're coming up on. So I think a lot of core members are going out and planting flags at memorial graves, and
All right.
yeah, so there's some really cool stuff out there.
Now, on to all things. Well, so my next question, because we've gotten to do some pretty cool things with the core around autism specifically, also neurodiversity. Well, we did our TAP training over at the Sacramento Energy place, but what we were able to do at Tahoe Center, Placer Center, which is up in Auburn, and even in the Stockton Center, we went out and we presented to the core. There was basically two presentations, one for the staff and one for the core members, on what is autism and what is neurodiversity, with the understanding that there are people that come into the core that have autism or neurodiversity, but they're not coming in with a name tag that says I have, or they're not always coming in with a diagnosis. So what me and Eric were designing our presentation around was, how do you spot somebody that has autism, basically, without knowing it, right? Do you guys, do you see a lot of people like that? Or how do you?
Yes, absolutely. We're seeing more and more folks come into the program who are neurodivergent. I think it was from partnering with you all to figure out ways that we could better, one, identify, and two, create a better culture where we can support people, make a space where people who can, if they're diagnosed, come forward and say, I've got this and I need a bit more support to participate, or this is what support looks like to me. And so to that end, we have a process called reasonable accommodation, where if there's a need that you need to fully participate in California Conservation Corps, we will do our best to supply it. And then we're also partnering with the Department of Rehabilitation as well. And what's cool about that is they enable us to directly provide, services to core members who need it.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
it's really, really awesome. So that looks like career counseling. That looks like I need money to buy an interview outfit. I need help with getting a tablet or a uniform or an assistive device. It's awesome. So when we socialize that piece of it, we get a lot of people saying they're raising their hand and say, "Oh, I'm interested in that. Tell me more."
Yeah. And do you guys then provide the services from funding from DOR comes through you guys, and you have the personnel that support, or DOR has their people that can do the job counseling and provide the equipment or something like that?
It runs through DOR. So we have a liaison with DOR who sort of comes in, and we're not here to diagnose anybody, but when people come forward, we can connect them.
And with DOR,
with
they get the
resource.
services to be able to be more successful.
That's right.
That's awesome.
It is awesome, and it's a really well-oiled machine now.
And you have a whole job development thing. So what kind of job? It's different for each person.
It is.
But what's a common type of job that somebody would get after the core? If someone's thinking, I want to come into the core, what will they do?
Yeah. I think a lot of people go into, fire is about 30% of what we do. So that's
right. So if they're trained with CAL FIRE, they can just become CAL FIRE.
They can compete to become a CAL FIRE, but the CAL FIRE folks are just they take our core members as soon as they're ready to go, which is good. It's a good thing.
Yeah,
it's a good thing. That means it's working really, really well. So it's awesome. So we place hundreds of folks, but we've got folks who are doing our watershed stewards program who want to do fish surveys, and they take that and they work in the Department of Fish and Wildlife, continuing to do that work. We've got people who do parks work, but maybe they liked working on trails, but what really caught their attention was the interpretation and the education piece of it. So we see a lot of people going into the park aid and the recreation side of it as well. So if there's what other things? There's the water resources area. We're seeing a lot of people who, to one of your earlier points, want to work in the office doing things like, hey, I want to work in human resources, but I want to do it for parks. I want to do these conservation. I want to be around these people who like the outdoors, but I want to work in an office doing this. I want to do policy. And so there's not one track, which is really, really cool. There's a lot of pathways now. A lot of pathways.
That's cool. We came to you guys originally. Karen was involved, and we were talking to some people in administration. But one thing that I've recently come to understand, I learn always a new thing about the Corps. I didn't know so much about your employment part of what you do, but I was introduced with Melanie Wallace, and you have a whole, like when someone's leaving, like it's kind of like they would be like their transitional year at Meristem, kind of thing. So they're going to leave and go, and you have a whole program basically. What do you do? What is that program like?
So the program, we call it our Navigator program. And the idea is this is the person who sort of works as like your case manager who says, from the very first day when you join the CCC, they're like, hey, welcome to the CCC. What do you want to do when you're done with this? Or how do you want to use this experience for your next thing? And so from the very beginning, everyone is set up with a sort of a career transition plan. Maybe your goal is, I really want to save some money for my scholarship because I want to go to school. Or I really want to, work on a parks trail crew. And so with that, every Corps member has a mentor, and we let the mentor know, well, this is the path that this person is on, and this is what they're working towards. So we reverse engineer from where a person wants to go and then match them with the program. And those persons, as a Corps member, it's important to get regular feedback and evaluations. And so it's, how am I doing? How am I progressing? What can I work on? What are you noticing? And then we provide opportunities. We bring in guest speakers and we do career fairs.
Oh, wow.
So all along, you're having these touch points and interactions with folks who can help you get to your next level. And that is a really successful program for us.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is.
Wow. I mean, I think of the way Meristem's modeled, and we're just like a baby comparatively to
it's
what you guys
so
are.
Similar.
The model is very, we have our student coordinators with a student through the whole program and in the transition. I think we're trying to get better at that transitional piece ourselves. But that's very cool to just see the similarities at the end of the day. Do you guys have any feedback? Like, how is the TAP training? Instructors navigating adults on the spectrum, or maybe undiagnosed challenges at the end of the day. Has it been enough time where you can see change or not change, or feedback for us at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think the two biggest things that I noticed was, one, a bit of a culture shift, and it was always something that people were aware of, but weren't quite talking about more. So what I'm seeing now, especially with the staff trainings, is people are talking about it a whole heck of a lot more. And when we're talking about it, what that does is it's important for people to see your leaders talking about these things, because people start to raise their hand and say, yeah, this is important to me, and I need these support. So that is a big shift. The communication piece, the way that we talk about it at the CCC, has shifted. And another important thing too is it's not just about our Corps members, it's also about the staff. We have over 500 staff folks who, they too, maybe on the spectrum, need some support, or they want to know how they can change their environments to better support people. So we have a new residential campus coming on, and from the conversations we've had, we're talking more about, how does the lights in this space sort of affect things, and what is the access to sunlight and colors and textures and noise, how does that all play into this workspace that we're trying to create? And if this is a place where we're all trying to heal and improve ourselves, how do the physical spaces support that? So we learned a lot in that.
Oh, that's awesome.
Super cool to hear. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I mean, to me, even more I think about the natural world being one of our fundamental things, our campus, not the Sierras, but still, I think a big piece that is healing and therapeutic from our program is being in nature, being on our campus, being in a desensitized area where you can kind of just absorb the natural sensory input for a lot of time. share a little bit, like what are some of the what's some magic that you've seen happen with maybe a couple individuals over your time, just from the progress of being in the CEC for a year, 2 years.
We just had our big all-staff meeting this week, and I'll just share all this incredible, great news and all these wonderful core member success stories. One of my favorites is we have a young person who's working at an outdoor school over there in the Bay Area. They would intern. Again, this is a different opportunity than what the CCC is known for.
Yeah.
And this person did so well that they were hired on to be a naturalist for the next year, and they're leaving the CCC in 1 year's time. We see people who are coming to our program and going to high school. They might be the first person in the family to go to high school, first person to get their diploma, which of all of the certifications we provide, that is the one that is guaranteed to change your life. It's like your health outcomes change, your job outcomes, the amount of money you make completely change with that. And so,
do you have anyone on staff that does tutoring?
So we have teachers.
Oh, you do on staff?
Yeah. We have teachers who come in and will be on our campus. So when you're done with that long day of work, you shower up, you have your dinner, and then it's like, oh, we're going to the classroom. We're going to high school. So it's a long day, but it's a great day.
Yeah.
You just celebrate our core member of the year came out of our culinary program.
Oh, cool.
It's never happened before. So it's really, and what I love about your program, when I look at your residences, what I liked about that, which I wish that we could do, is like everyone has their own sort of apartment and they're cooking for themselves.
Yeah.
Like, that's awesome. Like you're learning that skill, which is incredibly valuable. So I would take a page out of your book and do my next center like the way you do yours, because I think that is such a great way to teach people.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, we're working with adults on the spectrum, developing life skills, but it seems like those types of life skills are lost more and more. And they're essential, like, budgeting. I mean, it sounds like you guys probably do budgeting and things like that. That's a counselor conversation, but the cooking, learning to eat healthy, putting different meals together, even a transportation mobility training, just the confidence to take public transportation, navigate an airport, know who to talk to in a situation. Yeah, it's all important stuff. That's super cool.
Do you have core members that drive? Like, I assume they drive, some of them, and the ones that don't, do you provide some sort of a driver training, or?
We do. That's a big one.
That's something we do as well, right?
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, we connect people to get their driver's license.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's one of it unlocks a whole lot for them. When they have that.
You can just get places.
The world opens up. Yeah.
Go hang out with my friends. I can get to work. I can, make it around town. Go to different places. Very cool. Well, I think we're coming up on time. But what's like your big vision? So you're like the director guy, right? So you have the opportunity to kind of create some vision. What are like one or two things that you're trying to bring in to move the CCC into its next step? Or
thanks for asking. I think the thing that I'm working on right now is this idea of a core for all people. So a core for all, and the idea is to stretch the circle a little bit wider to make sure that all people, all abilities, all body types can serve. Who wants to serve? So the goal for the CCC is to be a reflection of California. And when we move in that direction and we unlock opportunities for all folks to serve, we just become a better CCC. So I'm interested in partnering with the Department of Rehab and others to, folks who are on the spectrum, wheelchair users, ASL, people who are newcomers to the state, just more women, just making sure that we're reflective of California. So that's my big charge, that everyone gets to participate and serve in the CCC.
That's awesome. Yeah, I feel like, a thing for some of our students that come out of Meristem, like the CCC seems like a cool next step. Like if you start Meristem at 18 and you're 22 and you're like ready to go into the workforce, I could see the CCC being like, hey, why don't you go do that for a couple of years and just like get grounded? Because I know I think for us, like originally our if our therapeutic program is done right, the physicality of the first couple of years is really important.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure we've totally hit that yet.
Like
I
the
can
structure,
see-
I mean, maybe.
Well, the structure, but
Okay.
even like if I'm building a trail, like that's 8 hours of manual labor a day.
Mhm.
And there's something that like sets you in your body that like builds a body that can actually kind of withstand stuff in your life.
Resilience.
And we struggle with people that can't do 20 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. And so to
Right.
me, like, I don't know, it's just cool. It seems like a cool way that we could, move, like, partner with you guys in ways that could, like, just, hey, here's a transition from Meristem to, like,
It is.
build yourself up even further,
Uh-huh.
and then keep going, because you guys have awesome transitions.
We do. It makes sense to me too. That goes from here to here. And we're,
Absolutely.
yeah, and we're still learning from you all too about how to adapt our programs.
Yeah, thanks. Well, JP, it was awesome. Thank you so
It was.
much for coming on our podcast today. Harry, you got any
No, I mean,
words
this is wonderful to be able to partner.
Yep.
I know there's a whole onslaught of people coming from the transitional team in
Cool.
the summer to do another tour. They like to bring new groups of people that don't experience Meristem
Yeah.
to experience it, I guess. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and we're working on a vendorization with DOR.
Nice.
And so, yeah, it'd be cool to see, if there's ways for us to partner with you guys
Yep,
once we
it makes
once
sense.
we get that squared away. So, lots to come, maybe.
Yeah, cool.
It might be, yeah.
To be continued. Thanks for the
We'll
conversation.
see when this podcast goes. This was so exciting. Thank you so much for making the drive out here from Midtown over your headquarters.
Thanks for the invite. I appreciate it. It was great. Good to see you all.
Cool. Well, with that, Meristem podcast
Out.
out.